Welcome, everybody, to the Integrative Women's Health Institute. We are going to be talking today about is health coaching right for you, and how really that this time frame, like walking into the fall, into September, is a perfect time period to be talking about how this may fit you, fit your goals, and what that may look like for you. It's fall, we're heading into fall, all the kids are going back to school. The kids are focused on their education and their journey and what's the next best step for them, whether it's high school, whether it's college. And it's often a perfect time to think about for yourself to kind of realign your vision, your goals, what may potentially be the best path for you to follow. And we want to talk about how coaching may be that right path for you. So I'm Dr. Dawn Allen. I am a master coach for the Integrative Women's Health Institute and also help with operations. And I'll be talking with Dr. Jessica Drummond, who is the CEO and founder of the Integrative Women's Health Institute. So let's start with just what is coaching? Like, what is that? And talk about what that may look like for people.
Yeah. So why would health coaching be the right next step career for you? It depends on how you think about coaching, I think. What is coaching? And I think one of the most interesting things about coaching is at the end of the day, there are a number of perceived definitions about what it is. So on one hand, people are thinking, oh, coaching is just someone who hops on Instagram, proclaims themselves a coach and starts telling people what supplements to buy or things like that. Or if you think about business coaches, again, there's more of the idea that someone will give you kind of a step-by-step process for, stepping out there with a side hustle or creating your own business. And in that sense, people are giving you coaches, or people proclaiming to be coaches are giving you a set of recommendations. And how is that distinct from a clinician whose job really it is to assess your health status and look at biomedical markers and again, give you a set of recommendations. So it's very confusing because what coaching really is in its purest form is eliciting from the person who's coming to seek coaching what they intuitively already know. If you think about it, humans are animals, and we have some awareness about what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy and optimally functioning. And also, quite frankly, there is a vast amount of education out there about what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, right? Everyone knows that it's healthier to eat salads and vegetables than it is to eat Oreos and Doritos. And yet there's this confusion around what do I do to take care of my health? And that makes a lot of sense too, because at the minute detail level, things get very confusing, which is why I constantly get questions about things like, I'm struggling with hot flashes or perimenopausal weight gain symptoms, or I have chronic pain. What supplement should I take? Right? There's one kind of magic solution because that's how we're marketed to. So when we at the Integrative Women's Health Institute, when we talk about what is coaching, we really think about coaching as a skill set of communication skills that helps center the client and their unique experience, their unique internal wisdom, their unique education, their unique resources, their unique struggles and overcoming those barriers to making healthy behavior changes. And we create space, and we have very specific communication tools to get people to take action in the direction of their health. So it's very different from what you might think of as someone who hops on Instagram and gives recommendations about, take this supplement or eat this diet or meal prep in this way. Not that those educational tips aren't useful and in some cases very helpful on an individual level, but on a holistic level, first, we have to really understand where our clients are coming from and what will actually motivate them to make those changes before we give anyone a huge checklist of recommendations.
Yeah, and I would say in what you were talking about regarding helping the clients really take action steps towards their goals, that part of what I think really is special for coaching and people who are certified as coaches is before we even get to that step, we really work on their vision, right? We really look on really helping them see what they're headed towards, what they really want in life, what they desire in life, instead of what they're running away from, which we see sometimes with clinicians or coaches calling themselves coaches who are giving you the recommendations. They're helping you run away from, what you don't want, instead of, I think that's part of the beauty with coaching and having the skills is helping you sit in that first, really start to sit in that vision, to believe what is possible for you, and then in taking that and then moving you towards that.
Yeah. And I think, so many really skillful health coaches, and these health coaches can also be, many of our graduates are health coaches and clinicians. They're health coaches and physical therapists, health coaches and nurses, health coaches and gynecologists, health coaches and occupational therapists, and wellness providers, health coaches and yoga teachers and midwives, acupuncturists, across the board. And I think what's so unique about that is, so what will often happen is the client will come to us in a particular pain. And that's all they can think about because it's chronic. It's been ruling their lives for years, if not decades, by the time they sort of step out of the traditional medical model and find a coach. Then it's like, oh, so they're just trying to get out of that pain, and it's their whole focus. So one of the really interesting things about being a coach is helping people, even in intense long-term chronic illnesses, to concurrently heal and live. And that's so beautiful to see, because when that happens, when that emotional and mindset shift happens for clients, and they start to see that it's possible for them to live and heal over time concurrently, they don't have to wait for their disease process to be completely resolved before they can then have a vision of whatever it is they want to do, travel, give more attention to their families, get a promotion at work, whatever the things are they want to do and address and be more of. What's so wonderful about coaching is you can bring that all in right from the very beginning. And that actually keeps people motivated and excited about their healing journey, rather than it always being about, and this is what I learned in sort of traditional healthcare graduate school, was like, every time you're like, what's your pain level? You're very, very focused on the symptoms. How are they? Where are they? There's all this focus on running away from the symptoms versus letting the symptoms drift away as the person is also living and healing. And it's part of actually the healing when they start to think of that in that way.
Yeah, that's I agree. That's part of the beauty of coaching. But you said something in there that I want to talk about. I want to touch on a little bit more. Is let's talk about the clinician who is also the health coach. So, like for me, I come from a traditional medical model. I'm trained clinically as a nurse practitioner. You as well, trained clinically as a physical therapist and in clinical nutrition. So let's talk about that. Like, how can that person, that clinician who is maybe trained in that traditional medical model, but wants to dive a little bit deeper or wants to have a more collaborative, connection with their client, how can they take these skills, the skills that you learn in coaching, and incorporate that with what they know, whether it's in their current practice, whether it's opening up a different practice? What does that potentially look like for a clinician who may be interested in exploring whether coaching is the right thing for them?
I think intuitively, many clinicians actually would prefer to be coaches. They kind of went to graduate school thinking they were going to be coaches, right? Thinking they were going to learn how to sit with someone in the experience of their illness or injury and help them to really focus on how to heal. But unfortunately, the way our medical model, our conventional medical model, and even to some extent our integrative medical models, because sometimes that really shifts into just sort of like green pharmacy, like what's the supplement instead of what's the medication. Those traditional models of how the relationship is between a provider and a person seeking support for their healing is so both kind of patriarchal. There's this sort of patriarchal power differential, and the person who's giving the recommendations has this ownership of like, they have to fix you like you're some kind of broken car, literally. And it's like, what series of, whether it's supplements or medications or surgeries, and how quickly interventions, PT, acupuncture, whatever, what those interventions do to sort of just like fix the physiology. And it's a very frustrating model, not just for patients, but also for professionals, for health professionals, because there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure of taking ownership of things that they actually don't have any control over, right? Like you cannot go home and sit with each and every one of your clients and see what they're having for dinner. You just can't. Seeing if they're getting up in the morning and going outside to take their walk, like you just don't have any control over that as a clinician giving a recommendation. And then there's the challenge of not enough time and intense productivity pressure and not being able, really allowed to think holistically. And I see this across the board: nurses, physicians, physical therapists, occupational therapists, massage therapists, acupuncturists, like they're just under intense pressure to just see as many people as they can in a day and focus on one little piece of the puzzle. And intuitively, I think professionals want the time and space to see how they can help people really heal from the root cause. But our system is not set up like that. So what happens is then a clinician will join our health coaching program. They'll gather these skills and they're afraid that they won't have the capacity to actually do this in the real world, because they're like, wait, I know what's going to happen to me if I go to nursing school, I get a nursing license, I go get a job in a hospital. I know it's going to be a lot of pressure. I know it's going to be exhausting, but I also know I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be able to work X number of shifts. I'm going to make a certain amount of money, more or less. And there's a safety in that. But over time, people just get exhausted and really can't keep up that pace. So one of the things that I did deliberately, because this has been a fear of people making this transition to be able to both either purely coach or coach as a clinician, and both are great paths. Either one works well. I really still, in my private practice, coach as a clinician. So I can get to bring in all of my hats, which is actually wonderful. And either of those things can work and do work well with long-term business support. And that's what we offer here, because at the end of the day, and also because there are increasingly jobs in coaching, more and more and more, which is why we have committed to the rather complex and difficult, time-consuming process to make the Women's Health Coach certification NBHWC certified, because we want our graduates to have the opportunity to get those jobs, those more defined, for some people, safer feeling jobs. And we can currently offer them space over time, both in our program and when they graduate. There's lots of opportunity. I'm on live calls 3 times a week to help our clients and our students and graduates develop the exact kind of practice that they want. And one of the things that's really important about how we do that is there's not like a 6-step process to 100K or, whatever you see from business coaching, because everyone's vision, we do everything in the coaching model, and each clinician and coach's vision is different. And this way we have the opportunity and we have the experience. I've been doing this since 2006 and officially since 2009. We have the experience to have seen hundreds of successful, totally unique kinds of businesses. And I think that gives us the insight to help people figure out what the exact right kind of business and or practice or job or career fits them. And I think that really helps to ease that fear of, how can I make this work? Well, we've seen it hundreds, if not thousands of times at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you said, to fit. That's so coaching, right? To fit them. So really, to fit their life, to fit their bandwidth, to fit what lights them up, how they want their business to look like, or potentially how to incorporate all of these skills into a clinician role or a different health coaching role. We've seen so many students be able to take these skills and incorporate it in so many different avenues. We've had them incorporated into programs at the VA. We have two students right now, actually, and a master coach who is utilizing these coaching skills to help the VA to create kind of a whole system, a whole body approach to women's health at those centers. We've seen social workers incorporate those skills into their current practice, or to start a whole new, practice where they're using these skills on their own. Students get jobs employed as health coaches through doctors' offices, or for example, for me, even having that credential before I started this role actually opened up so many doors for me as a nurse practitioner. There's more and more doctors' office, hospitals looking for people who are certified coaches, health coaches, to join their team. And I think it's also really important to mention not just on the live coaching calls, like all your years of training and skills of running a successful practice, starting practices, helping students grow their practices, but they also get this on a one-on-one basis as well, in particularly the program with their master coaches. They have the ability to discuss their vision, their dreams, what they're looking for, bring it to the live calls, and can discuss with their coach on their one-on-one calls what that looks like, how to bring it together, what the next best steps are, which you don't see. And I don't know if any other programs.
No, and we have the retreats also where you'll get to meet more than just your master coach. You get to meet multiple master coaches, and all of our master coaches are working as practicing coaches, and some are hybrid practicing coaches, clinicians. And I think what you said about, there are tons of open roles in healthcare right now, right? But this will set you apart if having a career, a long-term, non kind of, exhausting career in healthcare, a non-burnout career in healthcare. When you come to this program, even if you didn't change your job, like you literally went right back to the same job in a hospital system, in a conventional hospital system, or in a conventional medical office, you will now approach each and every patient differently. And the number one thing that our students say to me about that is they go home not exhausted. They go home with energy. They can then live more of their own lives without needing like a day to recover from their shift, to give some more of their energy to their families, to their friends, to themselves. And I think one of the most important commodities, that we have now is our own energy, and deciding, as you were saying before, what our vision is for that energy. So the opportunities have just expanded since we started this training program so long ago, because coaching is more and more and more a desired skill set within healthcare. And I think that's the most important thing. People think, before they really understand what coaching is, that anyone can just be a coach. And while anyone can call themselves a coach, very few people, and so it will differentiate yourself in the marketplace, actually do have a practiced skill set of coaching and the NBHWC credential, which really will separate you from the pack.
Yeah, I think it's important. I love how you said about, even if you take this back to clinician, like as a clinician, you take this back. your energy, and to be, everything that you said there was number one, on point, and just so beautiful, because I think it's really important to take like that. You take the coaching skills. It's coming up personally for me. It's just that once I learned these skills, it was the first time in my entire clinician life that I was able to stand up for myself, like actually to take my energy back, to take my power back, and to feel comfortable to say no, because staying late at work or just really didn't align with my values, with my vision, really what was important to me in life. And I was never able to pull that all together until I learned how to be a coach. And not to fault clinician, not at all to fault training or clinicians or any of that, but I also think they just don't teach us how to collaborate with our clients. So once you finally can let that pressure of being responsible for, the plan and the treatments and the, like every single step of their healing journey, and really working on helping that client to decide what is best for them, is just so freeing in so many ways.
Well, and I think that's where we have to take a little bit of a step back and remember how the conventional medical system was developed. It was developed to be a kind of power differential, a patriarchal model where the person with the degree, the license, the information kind of benevolently gives it to, and has all this like knowledge, gives it to the patient. And that is actually not modern evidence-based medicine, where we take into account the patient or client's own experience, their response to treatments, their internal wisdom, their knowledge. Look, we now have extensive access to knowledge simply as individuals to learn about our own conditions that our clinicians don't have as much time to read about because they're responsible for lots of different conditions. So I think that while the model was developed in one way, times have changed dramatically, but the model has not adjusted. And so, of course, our clinicians aren't really learning this in their training programs. And so they're trying to fit a round peg in a square hole and are really exhausted because the model doesn't align with what's really needed and what's really happening. And so both clinicians and patients are getting frustrated. And this happens across the board. And this is why the vast majority of our health professional, wellness professional students actually come initially, many seeking their own healing, because working in a healthcare career can be damaging to your health. It just can. And hospitals know this, right? Because there's all these like wellness programs and mindfulness lunches and stuff like that. But that doesn't really get to the root problem. It's like a little tiny bit of like lipstick on a pig, if you will. And so when students come to us as health professionals themselves, we also see them as humans who are often undergoing their own healing journeys. And what I feel like would be amazing in the transformation of healthcare, and what I think this company is truly about, is leading, innovating transitions and healing of the healthcare system and environment. So when people join our community and enroll in our school, our support for them initially is, let's help you learn how to optimize your own health. And as you were saying, create your own vision, create your own boundaries, create your own kind of wellness, self-care strategies. So people come to us with their own health issues, but they also sometimes come just needing to know that they're allowed to advocate for their own health. And I've been in graduate school for healthcare for a total of 7 years plus undergrad. Not one person ever said to me, like, the most important thing for you to be a great healer is that you have boundaried sense of your own need for your own health, so that you have the capacity to safely hold space for other people to heal. Never heard that once.
No, never. In any of the years of education. And I think that's a good transition to speak to what type of transformations per se could a student coming to Integrative Women's Health Institute, coming to the coaching program, what kind of transformations can they expect, or have we seen, whether it's, physical, like you said, taking on their own health journey, physical, financial, emotional, like what transformations could they expect, or we've seen with students as they attend this program?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm having like stories flooding my mind.
So many. Yeah.
I think, what I first see is this. I often see people come into it like just curious, feeling like, I don't know if I really even need this. Like, I'm already the person who's coaching all of my friends and family, and, this comes naturally to me. But I think the first transformation is, there's actually a structure and there's actually specific skills to practice and learn and use in a particular order, depending on what our clients are needing. So there's a real structure around the communication skill set of health coaching. And that gives people so much kind of nervous system relaxation and peace. Because again, it shifts the kind of locus of control from the person who's been trying to like fix everybody unsuccessfully. How many times is like, and people who come to us, right, they are sort of the natural healer, right? Like everyone in their family is like, hey, what do I do? And they're like, oh, and they go research it and they come up with this whole plan. All you have to do is this, this, and this. And the person's like, yeah, no, okay, fine, thanks. And they don't really do it. And then the person gets crazy frustrated.
Yeah. Or for a week, right? 2 weeks and come back and yeah.
Yeah. Or they're like, oh yeah, I tried that. I went gluten-free. Like you told me. Yeah, that didn't work. It's like, what? And so the person has invested all this energy. That's a rare, valuable commodity in people who are just sort of naturally asking for their help, but don't really want it a lot of times. So it's a new experience to have the skill set of coaching practiced and understanding when to use it and when not to use it, when it's likely to be beneficial, when there are red flags for actually using it and making someone worse, what safety nets we have to have in place, both for the client and for you on all levels, your health, your liability, all of that. Because sometimes it's like, I'm just going to go out there and coach. And there's no thought around what some of the risks are for that. And we give you the structure to make sure that both you and your clients are safe. So that's a really important transformation. Second, I think we encourage our students to kind of turn the mirror on themselves and kind of walk through this program as if they are their first client. So intuitively, what is their vision, both for health, both for work, both for just life in general, relationships? Help them start thinking about their own lives in that new way is, I think, really exciting for people. It's like no one ever, I was having a conversation with my husband the other day and he's like, where was my high school guidance counselor? I feel like I didn't get all these choices. Like, right?
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, we're not, I mean, other than I'd say now, maybe we get sometimes for kids as far as foods and this and that, but as in middle school and high school, you don't. No one comes to you really, and it's like, go take this test, go take this, go see but no one's like, what do you really want? Like, let's figure out what that is, what that looks like. But yeah, there's no one helping with that. It's funny.
Right. Where's my guidance counselor? And that can change, right? So what you may have wanted when you were 17 or you thought you wanted, and maybe you did want for like a decade or 2 decades, you don't want now. And there's no guidance counselor that shows up when you're 28 or 35 or 48 or 60. or 60. Like if we are going to be healthy enough to be living to 100, which is really what our kind of what we teach you in terms of education around here, like we're teaching you the skill set to how to be healthy all the way, your entire lifespan, and with the general thought that for most people, if you're doing these day in and day out, health behavior skills, health behavior, execution, healthy until 100 is not a crazy thought. This is just how we think, like healthy until 100. And so if you're healthy until 100, what's going to happen? Might have 5 or 6 different careers. You might, you're going through periods of fertility and pregnancy and postpartum and parenting and, choosing not to have children, choosing to be partnered, choosing not to be partnered, choosing to change careers. And I think our school and the community we've built over these many, many years is a super safe space for us to support exactly what that looks like for you. And a lot of people come in confused. They don't know what that is because we don't have that guidance counselor who probably didn't do a great job when you were a junior and then in high school, and it isn't around anywhere now. And so when now you're coming here, and this is the space where we give you to turn that mirror of coaching and health behavior coaching on yourself, because, we're talking about here September as the new January.
Yes.
Anytime there's a January in your life, whether it's you're an empty nester now, or you have 2 kids who have just gone into elementary school, or you've made a decision to not be partnered and that you want to buy your first house by yourself, like whatever your own new January is, here is a safe space to start living those health behavior skills. And when you get confused, because here's the thing, I could give everybody like an Oprah magazine checklist of like what to do to be healthy at a foundational level, but it does get kind of complicated either during transitional phases of our lives, say postpartum or perimenopause, menopause, even puberty, or if someone has overlain with that, which is extremely common now in an environment of pretty heavy environmental toxins, autoimmune disease or chronic pain, chronic fatigue, headaches. I think it's very rare now for someone to have absolutely no health issues going on at all.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just rare because we live in an environment that's stressful on all levels, and the systems are starting to break down.
Yeah, I would say, and add a layer to that, particularly for females, for women. I mean, it's supported that we more commonly have autoimmune disorders, definitely more hormonal imbalances. So I think you add on top of that, you're a woman. A lot of the students we have are clinicians or providers, and taking care of families, taking care of other clients. So add to that, yeah, absolutely.
So I think what you get when you come in here, when you turn that mirror on yourself in our community, whether you're a clinician or this is a complete career change for you, which is also very common in our community because of your own health issue, right? A lot of times people are motivated by, wow, I was an attorney or something, and now I went through this complex chronic illness and I felt so lost in the woods. Here we are to support that and to help people navigate when it gets complicated. And so that's why I've always felt it's important to have 3 pillars of education within the Women's Health Coach certification. One is that skill set of coaching, including all the safety nets that we need. The second is functional nutrition, root cause health behavior changes that people can implement day in and day out. And it's more and more an individual's responsibility, and it's more and more that individuals are resourced to take care of their own health, right? We have a lot of digital education. We have online access, direct to consumer access for lab testing. We have direct to consumer access for, all kinds of nutrient support, herbal medicine support, tools for, home exercise. We can be resourced in our own homes with a lot of things that we used to have to go seek from external sources. So knowing what those are and when to use them, we teach all of that. And then, of course, the business and career education, which we have both deep dive education and that coaching support to help you align that with your goals. So that's really the transformation that I see. I see people coming in feeling kind of confused and overwhelmed because sometimes they are also dealing with their own health challenges on multiple levels, and they don't know how to fit their work life into that or their home life. And so we can help you absolutely do that using all three of those pillars. And I've seen things like people who were mental health clinicians, psychotherapists, now integrate a whole practice of coaching with that. We see this all the time for pelvic physical therapists and occupational therapists. They have both their pelvic health practice and they have health coaching group programs or individual programs in certain niche markets. We have people who were publishers or HR directors who are now working for health coaching companies. We've had people work for large hospital systems like Mayo Clinic, the VA hospital system, integrative cancer hospitals, in functional medicine physician offices, especially gynecologists. We see that a lot. So the transformations are really all over the board, but they're all really fun.
Fun. Yeah. I think in those pillars that you were talking about, the women's health coach, the coaching skills, the functional nutrition part of it, and the business model part of it as well. I think there's a couple underlying things, and you've mentioned it. One is community. That for so many of our students, for the women in this program, it's that sense of community, like you said, that safe space, that sense of community, where they, for the very first time, feel it's okay to ask questions about yourself and to trust your intuition, and to have that guidance and the support from not just you on the live calls or the master coach, from other students. That community aspect is just something that is very needed, that they're looking for. But when they enter the program, I don't think they're clear on the amount of support and community that they're going to have in the program.
Yeah, I think one of my proudest things about this program is that people have come into, say, the Women's Health Coach Certification Program, like literally in 2009, 2012. And it's now more than a decade later, and they're still in our community.
Community. Yep.
They're still posting on our Facebook groups. They're still coming to our live community calls. They're still participating in our continuing education because we always stay on the innovative cutting edge. And what's so cool about that is exactly what you said. Myself and our faculty are very accomplished and have lots of interesting experiences and support to share. But how exciting that you also get access to literally several thousand people who have been through this program, who live in more than 60 countries, who are dealing with different kinds of medical systems than we have in the United States. We're all across Europe, we're in Australia, we're in Canada, Mexico, South America, and beyond. And I think what's so exciting about that is, things like, for example, in the United Kingdom right now, there's a big push regarding talking about menopause in the workplace. And one of our graduates is really on the leading edge of that. I get notes all the time from people saying like, oh my gosh, I was approached by my state or even federal, national government to participate on panels about certain topics, to help actually write laws about those, and supportive, even direct funding for different women's health issues that those countries are uniquely concerned about. So the sky really is the limit. And sometimes people's priorities is really to think about, okay, how do I want my life to fit in with my family and my friends and like my work to fit in with my actual life? And even on a smaller scale where you're not maybe impacting things nationally or globally, in your community, which we have, hundreds of examples of, what exactly does that look like? How does somebody do that and also raise 3 kids? Or what if I'm still breastfeeding? Or, what if I'm taking care of my mother who has dementia? It's very likely that someone in our community has already done this and is right there to support you. So I really love that. That's one of the proudest things I feel about this community.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And there's just a few things I want to just clarify, because I don't want to take for granted that, or assume that people know what, because we say root cause a lot, right? We say root cause or integrative, or so I think it's really important. I want to ask you two things, and then we'll just transition into just a couple questions about how to find, coach and what may potentially, why it's so important to consider our WHC program. But what is root cause? Like just explain what does that mean when we look at it as a root cause approach?
Well, I think it allows us to help people knit together why they might have multiple kinds of symptoms across various systems. So I've said for, I don't know, 20 years now, don't chase symptoms, optimize systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't chase
That's
symptoms.
What I was looking for.
Yeah. Don't chase symptoms, optimize systems. And what that really means is it's on a very micro level, and it's on a mid level and a macro level. So physiologically, we have all these different systems: our nervous system, our digestive system, immune system, musculoskeletal system. And the hard part about both conventional and integrative medicine is that these systems are separated. You have to go to cardiologist, gynecologist, neurologist. And that's one, exhausting if you have a chronic illness. Like, having experienced that now personally at a pretty deep level, it's exhausting to go to 75 different health appointments every year. You're just like, oh my God, can 2 of these people just talk to each other? So as healers, as healing and health coaches, we help people navigate that, but also know that sometimes if you really get to the root from a physiologic systems level, you don't have to do that like, doctor to doctor shopping trip to look for this magic wand, because by shifting certain foundational behaviors, how you're moving, how you're eating, how you're managing stress, how your relationship health is, how your career health is, how your financial health is, many symptoms can resolve all at the same time or roughly the same time. So that's one of the things we mean. That's one of the key things I mean by root cause. And then the other key thing is that, so yes, we can get really granular about the biochemistry of this, like, which hormones and which enzymes and which nutrient deficiencies. And we do that. But more often, what's actually driving these issues is what are the root cause stressors, and one, can they be modified? Because sometimes they can't. We're talking more and more about things like air pollution. That's just going to get worse in the coming years. And there's only so much people can do about that. There's certain things, but it's, sometimes we have to learn to live and build resilience in the context of stressors, or let's slow some things down and identify these stressors so that we can begin to let them go. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about your own metamorphosis in this shift from being a nurse practitioner to being a health coach, is that you began to feel more resilient in your own body and your own mind, and safer in your own skill set. And it allowed you to create stronger boundaries that actually really helped your health. So that's what I mean when I talk about root cause, because nowhere else in our health and wellness training do people think with such a wide lens on what actually helps people to be healthy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I feel like sometimes because we often talk this, right? You know, you and I speak this language all the time, but I want to make sure those who don't really understood what that meant, because I do think it kind of gets to the root cause and how it's so important to look at the whole person and optimizing, like you said, their systems, not just chasing their symptoms. So thank you for elaborating on that. So just a few other things, and then we'll wrap this up, is I think it's really important to talk about IWHI, so Integrative Women's Health Institute, in the women's health coaching certification. So that of course implies that it's a focus on women, looking at not just coaching, that functional nutrition, root cause, system approach, also supporting your business, whether it's building a business, incorporating it into your current clinical practice, finding a job, doing all the above, whatever that may look like. But this program is solely focused, which is not done anywhere else, on women.
Yeah.
As a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I did that deliberately on some level when I started this institute long ago, because clinically in my personal career had evolved from more general orthopedics to women's specialty orthopedics to women's and pelvic health in my physical therapy career. That was just simply the evolution of my career. And initially when I started this school, I was just interested. I was like knee deep. I was working in a hospital, the Women's Hospital of Texas, and it was just where my career interests lie. But over the years, that aspect of it has become even more important to me, that we focus on women's specific health. And that is because I think we've become more and more aware in the last few years in particular of how much of an uphill battle women actually do have to, how many more stressors we actually do carry. So even among married relationships, for example, women carry a significant heavier burden of household labor. Women carry a significantly heavier burden of kind of just that knowledge, like the work of knowing when your kids are need new socks because they've grown out of them. Is the permission slip due now? Right, the emotional labor that women carry is dramatically higher than that of men. Women have to think about how they write an email. There's some cognitive labor around that to frame how someone who receives that email is not just going to gather the information about like what they're trying to say in the email, but then how the woman will be perceived. Mm-hmm. And the amount of excess emotional and true physical and cognitive labor that women have to carry is I think an represented or an valued amount of added stress, when we really understand that stress is at the root cause of many of these multi-system chronic illnesses. Having additional daily emotional, physical, and cognitive labor to do the exact same thing is really hard on a woman's health. And over the years, that is really wearing. And we also do see that women have particular illnesses at much higher rates: autoimmune disease, hormonal issues, chronic pain. And we layer on top of that women in the healthcare system are believed less about their chronic pain, even about, heart attack symptoms and things like that, even among female physicians. So if a female patient tells something to a female physician or a female clinician, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be better heard, because we have our own internalized patriarchal biases as well. And so that's all very problematic to health, and we have to stay focused on that. And when I say women, I actually do mean all women and people who are non-binary, people identify as women, because it gets exponentially worse when, or it's, I wouldn't say, let me put it this way. It gets even more challenging, and the data is very clear on this, if women are of lower socioeconomic status, if women are of color, if women are non-binary or LGBT or trans, any layer of challenge on top of being a woman makes this, a white, wealthy woman, makes this even harder. And so I think there needed to be a place where we can start to just recognize this. Some of this stuff, most of this stuff is so unconscious that, as I said, even women practicing clinicians are not even aware of their own biases. So we have to have a place where we can talk about this, where we can bring it into context so women are just have awareness of the extra stressors that they're carrying. Because if you don't know about it, then how are you going to negotiate a change in your own health behaviors, in your own relationships? And I think it's important to start having these conversations in a very respectful, mindful way, and be allowed to disagree about certain aspects of it. But this is just the facts. I mean, we have tons of science to show that, women are carrying these stressors at all levels that men don't carry. And it gets worse when women have more uphill battles to climb in their own distinct individual lives. And so we were the first women's health coaching certification to be approved by NBHWC very, very early on, when any health coaching programs were approved at all. And we are still the only. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that this is really needed, but very few people are willing to discuss how women do have a greater uphill battle when it comes to maintaining their own stress because of the layers, or their own health because of the layers of stress that are distinct to women.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. And speaking to that, I have just two more questions. And one is, if you are, say you are potentially looking for a coach, like you're a woman who happens to be listening to this, you're looking for a coach, like what, of course, we believe that, and we know just from experience that the graduates from our program are, top notch, high level, not just their coaching skills, but their whole systems approach, the root cause approach. What would you say, or how would you help them? Like, how do you know you're hiring a good coach? How do you look for a coach? How do you know you're getting that credentialed, someone who actually has learned the coaching skills? What do they look for? Or how do they know they're finding that type of coach?
Yeah, I think at the bare minimum, you want someone who has been through an in-depth coaching program. So that has been approved by NBHWC, because there are fairly strict requirements, and we are audited deep dive every 3 years. We update our materials every 3 years to make sure that we're cutting edge, that we're staying on top of the research, that our practices are getting better and better and better. So if they graduated from an experienced school that has been approved by NBHWC multiple times, for the longer, the better, because again, they've had to evolve over time and they have the experience of what makes a good, highly skilled coach. They're focused on excellence at all levels, and they provide that community support to their coaches so that their coaches have the bandwidth to hold space for you. I think, one of the things that people don't consider is how burned out is their coach, how, how burned out is their doctor, right? So that's a really important thing to think about. Coaching is a skill set that requires a lot of emotional bandwidth. And if your coach is super burnt out, that's not going to be the best place for you. That oversight is, I think, very strong and very important. Then if that coach themselves went and took that next step of being board certified, which is far easier, more in the US than outside of the US, it's more difficult to access that board certification outside the US. So if person has gone through a board certified program and has a certificate from that. So let's say one of our graduates in Singapore, isn't board certified. I wouldn't be as concerned about that as long as they graduated from our program, because just accessing the test is tougher outside of the US, and it should be expanding soon to Europe, but it's not really there yet. So that is another, those are green flags to look for, if you will,
Yes.
that the program is very strong, that the person's been committed to it for a long time, that they have that experience. And I think it's actually really beneficial to find a health coach who is niched to the area that you're most concerned about, but aren't totally limited. So when you meet with them, they're really interested. They've had a lot of experience with the same number one question that you're struggling with, number one problem. So they're pretty niche down, but they're open to individually really hearing your story and being curious about it, not necessarily giving you like a 5-step program to healing. Now, a structure around the program can be very helpful to keep people on task and kind of making sure that they bring in all the aspects of what helps people to heal at the root cause, but that they're not so committed to their structure that they can't hear your unique challenges. So I think that makes a really good, really flexible coach, and coaches that are collaborative with other professionals, because no one professional has like the magic wand solution to your challenge. But coaches who are collaborative, who work with other professionals, who bring in new ideas, who stay on top of the research, who attend in-person or virtual conferences, who do continuing education, they're really curious and spacious and educated, and they're committed to really helping you, but they also take time for their own nourishment. That's going to be your best bet.
Yeah, I think that's just so important to mention, because in that coaching market we were talking about, in the very beginning, there's so many people out there who say, I'm a coach, I can help you. And I think just like with nutrition information or trying to find your own health, information on your own health journey, it can be confusing as to, okay, how do I find a coach to work with that I know is going to, fit everything that you just spoke about. So I just want to wrap up with getting back to September being the new January. Here we are in the fall. We're wrapping up. We're heading into the last quarter of this year. There is usually a lot of reflection during this time period. So to talk about, the women who have been considering, maybe is coaching this the right track for me? Is this something I can do? And talk about probably two things, like why would they jump into our program? Why would they reach out to WHC, talk to our, enrollment team and consider joining this program? I think that's number one. And the other question is, what maybe potentially, even if they know, they're like, oh, I really know I want to do coaching, what may potentially be holding them back from taking that step?
Yeah. So I think, of course, I'm biased that our program is absolutely the best. But I think there are some very particular reasons that our program is the best.
Agree,
and we
do.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
And that's good. And we do very often have students come to our programs after going through other programs. And the most common reason for that is two things. One, we do have a very specific focus on women's and pelvic health. And it's very important to me. We're very niched. We know a lot about that subject. And look, quite frankly, a lot of people needing health coaching are women, because they are dealing with more of these complex chronic illnesses. It's just more common. The market is huge and really searching for you. So one is that women's health focus. The other is the community. Absolutely. The fact that we've been doing this for so long and have a lot of deep experience and have a lot of experience with different people creating different things out of it, and that are master coaches. So in so many kind of weekend coaching programs, if you will, or just kind of online where you can just learn the coaching skills, but you're not required to practice them with the support of really skillful coaches. I mean, one of the other things that I'm really proud about at the Integrative Women's Health Institute is so many of our master coaches have been with us for 5, 8, 10 years.
Yeah.
They've been here like for the whole time, people, really, and thus our master coaches have had their own career experiences for years to decades. And they've worked with hundreds of students themselves. They've had different careers within coaching at a lot of different levels, coaching jobs, coaching practices, hybrid coaching and clinician practices. They've created their own. They've gone and worked for people. So we have a depth of experience of how coaching really works in the real world and how a coaching career can really work for you in a lot of, depending on what your goals are. But also we require that you practice your coaching skills. And while that might feel a little scary, like when I say this, you're like, oh, do I really want to join that program? There's a mild hump that you have to get over to just do it the first time, and look, our master coaches are so nice. They're so nice. They're going to take care of you. There's no pressure. You're going to enjoy you're going to grow to love practicing your coaching skills with them. But then when you leave here, our coaches are confident. They know they can do this. And that's why people often come to us from other coaching programs. They get through the program, but they don't feel confident enough to actually do this. When you leave here, you will feel confident. And not only that, we're not going to just like dump you off at the bus stop, right?
You're going to say, we're not like, you're done, go.
You're not just like done. And again, that's what a lot of times you get. Instead, we have a community that you can stay in for the whole rest of your career. We have lots of different ways to do that at all levels. And so, and the vast majority of people do. They stay with us for a long, long time, and you can ask us your questions, because here's the thing, it's one thing to go learn something. It's another thing to go practice it. So you practice it within our safe space, right? Within our really super nice, friendly master coaches who are very experienced, and will give you feedback very kindly. And then you'll get out in the real world, and sometimes you'll hit things that are a little more challenging, and we're still here to help you navigate that. You can still ask questions, and there are a lot of different ways you can still interface with the community. So I think that's the big reason. And then you asked a bit about like, why now? Right? Why, as we're like going into back to school season.
Let's talk about
it. Look, if you're a little bit of a nerd, you're probably in the exact right place.
I'm like, where's my glasses? Maybe I should put my,
right. Right. I know. I've got, my
little pencil.
These now. Like,
there you go.
Okay.
My little pocket.
Right. So if you feel like a little bit of a nerd, and look, I've been a nerd decades before I wore glasses. So if you're a little bit nerdy, you love to learn things, you're super curious, you're like that back to school cadence. It's sort of like a menstrual rhythm. It's sort of like a circadian rhythm. There's a rhythm to the year as well in terms of when we recover, when we're active, when we're learning things, when we're kind of like deep in the books, right? And look, the back to school time, September, fall semester, January, spring semester, is when our juices get a little like excited to go back to school ourselves. So whether or not you have children, you might be itching to go back to school, and this is a great time to do that. The energy is just behind us for that. And also, a large majority of our students and graduates are working parents. So quite frankly, you just have more time now. And, summer can be a little tough for working parents. You've got a lot juggling work and childcare and camps and family travel and all of that. And then if you are an empty nester, which, I'm getting closer and closer to that, more and more understanding of that. Again, our time to kind of reconnect with our own goals, our own vision, whether it's empty nest time, you experienced a divorce, you experienced a move, you're just feeling the itch for a career change. So whatever your September might be, that September energy you can ride the wave of. And now is a great time to refocus on your own vision. And this is the perfect space to do that because, as I said, the program starts by turning the mirror on yourself. And in fact, this enrollment session, in this particular back to school enrollment session, we're going to be doing a special visioning workshop for our brand new back to school cohort. And we're going to do that live and really get you focused and excited about your goals. Vision workshops are one of my favorite things to do because, again, almost never in my 100 years of going to school has anyone
I'm having a moment about previous vision workshops. Like I remember the very first one sitting in it being like, because you're just not trained. You're just not trained ever. I don't care if you're a clinician or not. No one that I know of and sits down with you and creates your vision, lets you actually sit, dream big and really think of all the possibilities. I remember the first one thinking like, oh God, like I'm going to do my vision, because I didn't know what it was. And then just in doing it, like being like, oh my God, like what comes up for you once you really settle into that. And then, in seeing the possibilities, and then even several years into this doing another vision workshop, it's just so good. Every single one of them is just so good. Sorry. So yeah, sorry, go back. Let's talk about the vision workshop that you're doing.
Yeah, and that's so good because I think it is really a bit of a kind of exciting, fun, emotional experience because you might be just out of college, you might be in menopause, you might be trying to figure out what you want to do now that you're a mom and how you want to try to figure out your career as a mom and how you're going to balance things. There isn't that guidance counselor who's like following through your life to say, hey, what are you really good at? What do you love doing? What gives you energy rather than sucks the life out of you, right?
Yeah.
And
your soul dry.
And what's really fun about, and everyone always has access to visioning workshops within the course, but this month I'm doing it special live with you. And again, when we do it live in community, in our Zoom live space that we get to create, and we have people come to it from all over the world, from all walks of life. And you have this community sort of cheering on like your vision is possible because, hey, you might be living in a community where they're like, you can't do that. That's too dangerous, or that's not possible. That doesn't really happen. It probably is possible. It probably is doable. And we've actually probably seen it and know how to do it. Yeah. Seen it happen and actually know how to do it. Like you're going to be surrounded by people who are going to help you. And it's just so fun. And then from there, you'll be able to use the program even more effectively because you're going to kind of have your own vision in the background as you're learning the material, as you're practicing, as you're refining your niche, as you're, turning that mirror on yourself and getting yourself healthier and healthier and healthier and more energized. It's just really fun. And then you'll be very connected to your new cohort and just jump right into the community. So I would love to see you on that workshop. It's a great way to start. And it really, sometimes, it's just back to school is the time to just jump in. It's time to get started. You've been putting this off for months and months, years and years. You've been thinking about it. You've been not sure. You've been afraid. Can I do this? Can I not do this? What is this going to be like? It's time. It's time. It's time to do it because look, time doesn't go in reverse. It's time to take the action. And then you're going to learn what your next step is from there. Where if you just sit and keep thinking about it, literally nothing is going to happen.
Nothing will change. Yeah.
Right. Action is where the magic happens. And we've seen it time and time again.
So it's time. You absolutely 100% can do this. We're here to support you in so many levels. And at IWHI, we're here to support you in community. We have Facebook groups, we have one-on-one calls, we have retreats. So there's so many levels of support to help you create your vision, create your plan. So you 100% can do this. So how do they do it? What's the next step? How do they jump in?
Yeah. So the next step is to meet with our admissions team, and you will be able to see where to do that. Just click on the button. It'll have you fill out a form, and you can schedule your time to meet with our admissions team, who are all awesome, amazing coaches themselves. They all also are actively practicing and know a ton about this program because they have all been through it. So you can ask them all of your questions. We're open books around here. We want you to get every question answered. We want you to feel confident coming in. Even if you feel a little jittery, I want you to have that underlying confidence, because know that by the time you're finished with this, you're going to feel very confident to start stepping into your vision. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that I just want to add regarding the enrollment team that they truly, that like their goal, because sometimes I feel in other aspects in life, whether it's another coaching program or really anything, that when you step onto those calls, that their whole goal is like sale, right? They're like, get you, and that is not what this is about. Like the enrollment team, like you said, they're all coaches, they're all practicing, they all know those skills of holding space, but most importantly, of really making sure that this program is the right fit for you, that this program or one of our other, any of the programs that we offer, that they truly align with you. It's the right program for you. It's a good fit for you. And it's the next best step for you. And it really is via invitation as well. Like we're very particular about who that person is to make sure that when we invite you into this program, it 100% aligns with you, your goals, and your vision for the future.
Yes, that's true. It's not a sales team; it's an enrollment team.
Yeah, it's an enrollment team. Yeah,
for a reason. Not everyone is invited to enroll because it's not always the right fit. But our coaches are very skilled there, our admissions and enrollment team. And if you are invited to enroll, then that it's a good fit. And again, they're there to answer all your questions, to make sure you feel like you completely understand what you're getting into. And it's a wonderful experience just to meet with them, no matter what really the outcome is. And so I wouldn't even worry about if you're not 100% sure, if you don't know, if you're still confused, if you still have questions, if you're not sure at all, if you're thinking maybe, the next step is to talk to them. Schedule a time, meet with them, and they will help you navigate that, because we do want good synchronicity from both sides. And so we're not going to push you into any stressful decision making.
No, it's 100% safe space from the very beginning, from the very first touch with the program.
Yeah. So. And then, if it's the right timing, again, if it's the right program, this is a great timing, because you jump right in with that live vision workshop and we'll get the ball rolling. And momentum is really half the battle when it comes to achieving your career goals, because that first step informs the next step. You don't have to always know exactly how this is going to go, 3 years from now. It's just, what's the next step right now? What's the next step after that? And you're supported the whole way. So I look forward to meeting you if it's the right next step for you.